And today I have the pleasure of talking with Yui Kamiya. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, today we are talking about the Sado Island Earth Celebration. And before we get into that and about this really amazing part of Japan in Niigata, I am so excited to go myself. This is a event that I've heard about for years. Yui, you say yourself you've been a part of it for 10 years. Is that right?
I know it's been 10 years. I never really thought about it, but it's been 10 wonderful years.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Do you remember how you first got interested in the festival?
Well, the festival is organized and ran by two entities. One is Sado City, the island, and its government, and the other is the taiko ensemble called KODO. And so I first got involved because I worked with KODO as their international tour manager and international business. And so naturally, when summer comes by, we would all be switching gears into Earth Celebration.
That's so good. And you're originally from, well, you grew up in California,
hmm
and you said you were introduced to taiko at UCLA. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was just talking to you before we went live, but just quick story. I had a major identity crisis growing up in the US as a Japanese American. I try to stay away from the Japanese culture as much as possible because I wanted to be American. But, UCLA and having a Japanese American community helped me shape who I am. And that's where I saw collegiate taiko. That's kind of a thing in the US. And I saw taiko at my university for the first time, and I felt really comfortable, I guess, seeing and hearing that thump in your heart. And then soon after, I realized that, there's a group that's based on Sado Island, and then they travel all over the world. Like, what more can you have? And so, yeah, that's basically how I met Taiko or saw Taiko and got to know who Kodo was.
Yeah. And you appear in some of the videos on the Earth Celebration channel. And you were doing some emceeing. Do you have an official role? Are we going to see you on stage this
Yeah.
year?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't even know that was still on YouTube, but that was probably back in 2020 when COVID hit. That was the first time we obviously couldn't hold a festival in 36 years. And, we didn't want to hold back necessarily. And we had all of our Kodo performers and staff who were trying to do something. And we had so much time on our hands. So basically, what we did was we went live on YouTube for, I think, 2 or 3 days. Sorry, I don't remember, but we went live. We made a lot of content. We did performances. We did like a car tour around the island and stuff like that, just so we can portray that vibe or the feel that we've had on Sado Island. And we wanted to share that moment with not just the people in Japan, but all over, just so that when COVID ends, hopefully everybody can come back to the island. So I had the pleasure of emceeing for one of the days. I'm usually behind the scenes. Like I said, I work for the tours behind the scenes. I'm never coming out. This is kind of um, really new to me for me to talk to people in front of people, but I did have the pleasure of emceeing and talking about these events in recent years, I guess.
Yeah. And so after COVID, this is really the first year back. Is everybody excited and ready to go?
Super excited. Like, technically, last year was our coming back because we had audience members watching the stage happening. But of course, this year is totally different again because we get to welcome people from, outside of Japan. And it brings back that international feel that we've always loved to have on Sado.
So I'm showing the official website right now for Earth Celebration, and there are still tickets available if people want to see some of the concerts and there's a lot of activity around the island, and of course the island itself is beautiful for sightseeing and enjoying amazing beaches, right?
Yes, super beautiful. I'm from Los Angeles. I know what a beach looks like, but the beaches or the oceans here that you see on Sado is unlike no other. And it's a treat because it's kind of a hidden gem. When you come to Sado, outside of the Earth Celebration dates too, you barely see any tourists. I don't want to spill the beans here, but you barely see anybody. So it's really magical to have that beautiful site all to yourself almost. And it's just a treat to be there. Yeah.
Nice. Now you sent me some photos. So before we talk about the schedule, I want you to run us through the schedule a little bit in more detail. But let's go through the photos that you sent because I think it gives a nice, like more personal impression of what
hmm
it's like to be at the festival. What do we have here?
That is from last year, I think. We started off with we basically paraded around this community that is the main area of our celebration called Ogi. That's the town. And so this is what you see up front is KODO's performers, and then what you see in the back are performers of a band called Las Señas, and they're basically oh, I forgot the way they play, but they basically use hand signals to play as an ensemble, and most of the instruments they use are Brazilian samba instruments, but they also have different percussionists, and it was just a mixture of percussion, not just taiko drums, but it was a mixture of different percussion parading through Ogi, and so the locals would have fun, our audience would have fun, and most importantly, the performers were having fun. So it was just a jolly old time.
That's awesome. And when I watch like the videos on YouTube and stuff of the performers, that's something I really, really love about it. And I'm excited to see it for myself because
Yeah.
they're having fun, right? Like they have been practicing all year and now they get to perform and they're so expert, like complete skill, amazing, right? But they're just smiling and enjoying it, and I love to see that. It gives me a sense of happiness and enjoying it too, right?
Yeah. What we like to say is that our performances are complete when we have audience to watch us. And so, of course, they practice every day and prepare for this very special performance. But when you have audience watching you and having fun, that gives us energy. So, what you showed in the first picture, it was actually raining really, really hard during that performance. You can see the reflection on the floor maybe because it was raining all day, and we managed to safely put on a performance that day, but you know despite the weather, everybody was having fun on stage or off, and that's the kind of happiness that you would usually find at Earth Celebration.
Oh, that's amazing. And then another one of your photos here, the banner with EC
Mm,
for Earth Celebration. Is this greeting people as they get through the ferry port, maybe?
mm. This is the entranceway to Harbor Market. This EC banner is kind of like a symbolic, I guess, banner that we usually have. It used to be at one of the shrines at Kisaki Jinja, but this particular year we had it at the gateway of the Harbor Market, where you can find food and goods from all over Japan that has a lot of cool taste and flavor. So this is a really exciting part too.
Yeah, so it's like when you see a restaurant is open and they have the Noren curtain in
Mm,
front, and now the festival is open, so we have the
yeah.
curtain welcoming you. I love that.
Yeah, and Joy, we're both sweating in our rooms because it's been so hot in Japan. But I was just saying that it's usually 4 to 5 degrees cooler on Sado Island because we're surrounded by the Japan Sea. luckily. And with that banner that you saw, you can tell that we have breeze, right? So it is, you know, kind of enjoyable in that way too.
For sure. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We're both sweating in our rooms in cities, but I think the music, and being on the island and the great scenery, as well as the amazing friendliness and welcoming nature of the local people, is
Mm.
something that I've heard from so many people who've been to this Earth celebration. That's really one of the big takeaways, right? You can see
Yeah.
that vibe here in this kind of an unofficial performance, is it?
Absolutely. This is the same parade that I was talking about earlier, and it's, this, I guess, during the parade, they found a bigger location that they can, congregate, and they just started another jam session. So this is just another scene that you would find on, another performance for Earth Celebration or performance because, the performers are having fun. They're just having fun, and people are just in there within that moment together. So, and like you said, the locals are very welcoming. We take pride in the festival lasting for 36 years. And so, which means that for 36 years, these locals have been the host community with us, um, hosting the guests, the artists, the music, the culture, and everything for every summer.
That's amazing. Is it
Mm.
like one of the longest running festivals in Japan, like music or international festivals? Like
We'd
I'm
like to say
thinking,
that, yeah.
that's awesome.
Hmm.
What are we looking at here?
Ah, so these ladies are taraibune, what is it? Rowers. Taraibune in Japanese, I guess directly translates to a tugboat. So it's just a round boat, and I guess it's a tourist attraction now, but it used to be used back in the day. And the way you row the boat, because it's round, it's like an eight or an infinity, and it's really, really tricky. But these ladies do it best, and they have the ogi. Ogi is the area that the festival is held, and there's a thing called ogi okesa, which is a dance, like a obon dance, and ogi, and these are kasa, where the dancers wear, and in this case, the rowers also wear these okesa gasa.
Wow.
So,
Now, I just interviewed an American carpenter who
uh,
was talking about Sado Island, talking about making these tugboats, these round boats,
mm,
which he's been working with so many artisans, and the craft of making these wooden boats is kind of dying out because they're not passing on the knowledge. It's been
yeah.
a secret. You have to apprentice with them. So he was talking about learning it and being so grateful that he was able to learn how to make that. And then you can see it in action still on Sado Island. So you're preserving that culture through tourism and through, even the dance, which is
Mm,
connected to that style of craftsmanship. I love
hmm.
I love seeing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I love seeing that also. And the more you know, the more in depth in the history that you can learn. And it makes sense too. Like it's really interesting. I love that about Sado Island too.
Yeah, lovely. All right. What do we have here? Looks like a beautiful view. The
Mm,
water just looks
I
amazing.
know. This is one of my favorite places on Sado Island. It's called Senkakuan. It's located, so Sado is shaped like an S shape. So if you imagine an S shape, Senkakuan is basically located on the western side of the island. So this area that you saw just on the map is where Earth Celebration is held. It's on the southern tip of the S, whereas the photo that you saw earlier was is located on the western tip. And the Sado Island, the S shape, generally the northern area is the more naturey part, while the southern part is where the locals live generally. But overall, there's a lot of nature all over the island. It's just so nice to drive out and just park wherever you can and just be out there, and every angle you see is just miraculously beautiful like this.
That's awesome. It looks amazing and
Mm,
so beautiful. A lot of the scenes I've seen from other people's photos is, of course, the beautiful coastline, the islands, the little outcrop of islands,
mm,
the tugboats that you see, and then the birds. Like the birds on the island
mm,
are really special. So if you're a bird lover, there are some very special birds. I found this website on Sado's Tourism Navi about the toki birds, which are the crested
mhm.
ibis, and all about not only those birds, but there's a lot of birds that kind of migrate to Sado Island, and they have done for centuries, and they're protected there because there's less pesticides used in the fields, and there was a campaign. It sounds like. To preserve these special birds that have always visited the island. And so we're so happy to hear that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and toki birds are just so special to Sado Island. So if you come to Sado, you'll see a lot of those toki birds everywhere because we love them too. And what's really nice is that the locals just leave them alone, and and they're just beautiful. They're they you can see them when you drive around. You see birds with pink wings. That's when you know that it's a toki bird, and they're just there. And it's really nice to be in the same environment with these beautiful birds that are just left by itself or by themselves out in the wild, and no one will just try to catch them or anything. We just leave them
Wow,
alone.
that's lovely. Let's go to another photo of yours. This is so fun. It's like visiting with you. So this is the same like festival, people just walking down the street like a mini parade, is it?
Yeah, and I guess this also talk I also want to talk about not just Earth Celebration, but this is something that you would also see at festivals, matsuri in Japan. In this case for Sado Island, we have festivals happening uh, I guess basically twice a year, once in the fall, once in the springtime. They both represent harvest, good harvest, and wishing good harvest or celebrating good harvest. And um, maybe you'll have another photo of this too later, but it's called ondeko, onidaiko, I guess, and you just have a dialect and you say ondeko, which also means demon drumming. Oh, yes, this. Basically, ondeko is not drumming, even though they have tiny drumsticks on their hands. It's mostly dancing, and it's festive. It happens when we want to celebrate for the good harvest. And what's fascinating is that um, almost every community has a different dance. So it's not just one dance that is shared within the island, but every community has its distinct dance and distinct demons or different characters. And that's what brings the community together is what sustains the families because like the entire Japan culture too, but the age is just rising higher and higher every year. But this ondeko culture I guess brings the younger generation to work together with the older generation. Even if they leave the island, these matsuri is just another reason for them to come back to their homes. And it's really nice to see. And so parading, of course, yes, that's really fun. And when you see the parade happening with the ondeko or the demon drums, that's also something really heartful to see on Sado too.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I know, I mean, this is an important part of sustainability. Is this show we're always trying to think of ways that we're supporting our community. How are we supporting people? How are we supporting planet and the economy? And I think big events like this, which they preserve the culture, they bring so much appeal through tourism, but also for a lot of
Mm,
people, like you said, who used to live there and they're proud
Hmm.
of what they want to go back and see and be a part of again, and then people are aging all over Japan. Rural communities are aging. There is not enough young people to do work, and this is a problem around Japan. And when you have something like this annual festival that people really want to come back for, it might entice them back even longer, right?
Yeah. And I think this applies for a lot of the inaka or the countryside of Japan, but more and more people who live in the metropolitan cities are thinking about moving into these inaka or these communities. And in Japanese, we call them aitang, or like the I turn. There's no turn in I, so I don't know, but they still call it aitang instead of a U turn. So aitang, where just people I guess, immigrate to the countryside is something that's been discussed on Sado Island as well. And so nowadays, I'm so surprised because every time I go back to Sado, we find a new location, we find a new coffee shop or a restaurant because these younger adults decide to come out and make a living, making business on Sado Island, creating new tourism, creating new economy, and sharing that island culture together with the locals. And they also have a lot of them reuse kominka, or I don't know what kominka is in English, but
Old
older
houses.
houses.
The whole
uh,
Kominka remodeling renovation movement is really
yeah,
exciting because you're you're
it's super
taking the really
exciting.
valuable parts of old buildings that were made so well and have so much value,
Hmm.
and you're keeping the really valuable part, and then you're modernizing and making like a creative, beautiful, stylish place, but not throwing away everything, right? And that's really
Yeah, I
cool.
love it
Yeah.
so much. And so you'll see so many of those kominka renovation and really cool businesses. I think we have a new chocolate shop, which is absurd, but it's crazy, but it's great. And they are so fashionable and sustainable, and they're just really down to earth and getting in touch with the community. There's a lot of different bars and restaurants, and it's just really exciting to see these happening.
It's awesome, isn't it? Because you're like reinventing culture. Culture and tradition
Mm,
doesn't have to stay in the past. You need young
mm,
people who understand it, and then they want to take it to a new level. And I find that so exciting,
mm.
that whole innovation part, right?
Yeah. And working with KODO, I know this is about Earth Celebration, but because KODO is such a core part of this festival, I think what you just said really applies to who KODO is right now too. Because if you, I guess, Google KODO, a lot of people might think that we're a performing arts group that puts on tradition and just tradition, but we have performers who are young as, I guess, 20 years old to our oldest member being 75 or something. We have a huge range, huge generation gaps, but at the same time, we all perform on the same stage. We um, reinvent, I guess, performing arts, tradition, and make it something more accessible for other people to get to know who Kodo is, what Japanese culture can be, what Japanese music can be. So we like to say that we're not a taiko group that uses just taiko, but especially for Earth Celebration too, you will see Jamaican instruments, or I think we've had Bali instruments, and I guess instruments that we found in all over the world when we travel and tour, and we put it into our music, and we reinvent who we are and constantly update our music and performing style. So yeah, I think what the Sado Island is doing right now totally applies to who Kodo is as an ensemble right
That's so
now.
exciting. And like you said, Kodo has become it's a huge part of this Earth Celebration festival, but it has become an export from right going around the world and doing these performances. And you also have
Mm,
some international people who are a part of the event this year, KODO and the Voices of South Africa. Can you tell us about
Yes. Yeah, this is our, I guess, first time in 4 or 5 years to have an international guest, which we are super duper excited about, because I think that speaks the heart of what Earth Celebration's mission has always been, is the mixture of cultures through music. And so the Voices of South Africa, these performers are phenomenal. We've had the opportunity to perform with them once in Belgium right before the pandemic, and it was absolutely beautiful. And we're super excited to finally welcome them to Sado Island to perform in front of a Japanese crowd. That was supposed to happen, I guess, during the pandemic, and it just took us a little bit a while for it to actually happen. That's why we're even super duper excited for this to
that?
happen.
I love how you say super duper. It's so cute. I grew up with my grandma saying that. Bring that back. I love it.
Yeah.
Maybe let's continue with your photos and then we'll talk more about the schedule a little bit.
Mm,
So we talked about the oni daiko. Now you mentioned about some of the food. What are we looking at here?
mm. I think this was called an onimang, and it's part of the vendors that you would find at the harbor market. The vendor lineup has not been released yet officially, but we usually have a mixture of local and I guess vendors from outside of the island providing food and goods within the market. And so this is one of the Sado vendors that is really,
I
really
mean, I've
popular.
seen dorayaki before, right, with the fish and
Mm,
the sweet beans
mm, mm,
inside,
mm.
but this looks really hard to make because of the horns and
Yeah.
the details, right?
And I think it's the Sado shape too. If you look at it closely in the background, it's the whole manju is shaped like the
Right.
island.
Yeah, I see it now. And then what's inside? Is it a sweet bean or something?
I think this one in particular was sweet bean, but they had a couple other choices, maybe more this year if they decide on putting out a shop this time too. But we'll see. It's usually a nice
And I love
surprise.
that blue sky background. How gorgeous is that?
Yeah.
Let's continue on the
Very
food theme.
photogenic
Now, you,
moment.
of course, being on an island, there's a lot of
Mm.
wonderful local fish if you're a seafood fish fan, right?
Yes, because Sado Island is located on the west coast of Japan. Japan Sea is known for really good fish because in the winter time it gets really cold, and which means the fish gets fatty. And so we get really good fish and clams and the restaurants that you would see or the restaurants that you would find on Sado Island mostly provides local fish and local
Which is
catch.
much more sustainable. That's what we want to see. If you're going to eat
Mm,
fish, you want it
mm,
to support the local fisher people, right? Yeah. As well as
yeah,
taste fresh and taste great too.
it's super fresh,
Yeah,
really great.
awesome. Maybe if you run us through the schedule a little bit, and I'm showing the website, and people can still buy tickets on the website too, right?
Yes, still buy tickets on the website. I think there are a lot of things happening throughout the weekend. It goes from August 18th to the 20th, Friday to Sunday. And during the day, during the night, there's a lot of things happening in the Ogi area. Uh, and free events and ticketed events. And so free events, of course, just come by and watch what you want to see. But for ticketed events, I would totally recommend getting tickets in advance, especially for the final, the Harbor Live concerts, which happens at nighttime on every single day of the festival. Those run out pretty quick because they become really popular. So far, the concert that I just talked about with the Voices of South Africa has been really, really popular. And so if you are contemplating on coming, I would totally recommend you getting tickets as soon as possible. Mm.
And then, how do people get to and from the island? It's by ferry, right?
Yeah, and so a lot of people don't realize that Sado is really big. If you try to drive the circumference of the island, it maybe takes me 4 to 5 hours. Um, so just keep in mind that it is big. To get to Sado Island, there's two main ferry ports. One is called Ryotsu, which is the main port, which is on the east coast of Sado Island. But what I would recommend is to come through the Naoetsu port or Ogi port. That's Naoetsu is where it starts on Niigata, and Ogi is where it takes you to. It only has two ferries a day, but that's basically going to take you right to the venue. So I would totally recommend trying to catch that. In order to do that, if you're coming from Tokyo, you would take the Shinkansen from Tokyo to Joetsu Myoko, and then a bus to the ferry port, and then hop on the ferry, and just takes you right there to the
And
venue.
they do have a car ferry as well as a hydrofoil, right? So if you wanted to bring your
Yeah.
car over, it's pretty useful having a car to get around the island.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend having a car to get around the island, because it's so vast and a lot of people have different schedules. It's probably most ideal to have your own transportation to get around.
Yeah, awesome. So we've covered the schedule. We've covered some of the local sightseeing that you can do, and the conservation and everything. Let's have a look at photos from German International's Hannah. She went a few years ago, and she really enjoyed being there. And there's a few sites that we didn't see yet, worth talking about.
Mm-mm.
So what are we looking at right now?
This is part of the community called Shukunegi, which is very close to all the concert and event venues for Earth Celebration. It's part of the preserved community areas. Uh, and if I can talk about this correctly, I believe it used to be a fisherman's port, which was the gateway to Sado Island for imports and exports. And that community has still been preserved really nicely. What you see right now is also Shukunegi.
Shukunegi is the name of the area, is it? Yeah.
Yes.
So the preserved old buildings, we go back to talking about people who are taking the old buildings and renovating them, turning them into guest
Mm,
houses, cafes, or living in them themselves, right? So it's really nice to be
hmm.
able to see the old communities preserved like this. That's really nice.
Yeah, and they have a strict rule of not putting out laundry outside, just so that this is a really popular tourist attraction too, and we want to make sure that whoever that visits this area can see what the fishermen community actually look like. But at the same time, you will see great cafes inside one of these houses. Stuff like really cool surprises like that too is what Sado
That's
has
so
to
nice.
offer.
And beautiful statue of a couple holding hands
Mm,
and smiling. It's very unusual.
mm, mm, mm. I actually never seen this
Oh
picture before or this statue before. I wonder where
Hana,
it is.
she's got a great eye for detail. So I'll I'll
Yeah.
I'll definitely be taking lots of photos and videos myself, and I'll seek this one out. We'll have to ask her. And
Mm-mm-mm.
then this says takoboshi. Is this like a restaurant or cafe?
This is another restaurant or izakaya located inside Shukunegi. So, like I said, the community is really beautiful, really well preserved. But once you find an open business and you walk in, it's just a whole nother world, and it's just really beautiful. And what I love about these restaurants is that they're not too big, and so you get to have like a tight knit communication with the owners and the regulars there. Just, small stuff like that just adds on to the experience that you will have at
Yeah,
Sado.
definitely. I love that. Let's keep going. So the same area, the preserved area. I love this
Mm,
bamboo fence. There's been a
yeah.
trend in the
Mm,
last 10 years for a lot of fences to be made to look like bamboo, but they're made of plastic. And so I'm really happy when I see actual bamboo being used because it's such a sustainable
that's true.
resource. It grows super fast. We have lots of it in Japan. So it's fabulous to see it, the real bamboo being used.
There's an abundance of bamboo on Sado Island too, and there has been artists and craftsmen who started to create uh, baskets and artwork with these bamboos too. What we saw earlier with the hats, those are also weaved with bamboo as well. So it's really nice to see different ways of using bamboo into arts and crafts and, living and community and stuff like that. Just really adds to the beauty of it
Oh,
all.
fantastic. I love to see a fresh green bamboo grove, right? And to
Mm,
see the shoots coming up and then whenever I do tours, I always take them by a bamboo grove in our local gardens and I say you can eat it,
mm,
you can wear it, you can use it to build things for shelter, for
that's so
tools,
true.
like
Yeah,
endless possibilities. Plus it gives us
so
shade,
true.
and yeah, huge bamboo fan. Yeah.
I second
So this
that.
is one of the evening performances.
Yes, this I think took place actually inside a small theater house in the Shukunegi community. We've had the pleasure of being able to use the theater house that's been, used for years and years. And this year, we unfortunately we don't have any programs within that theater house, but sometimes we do. And if you are interested, we usually have performances during Golden Week, holidays in Japan, called the Shukunegi Hall. And this was one of the performances that happened inside that Shukunegi Hall, which only fits, I think, 150 people. So it's a really um, small but intimate environment to just listen to the drums, see what's happening, and it's a beautiful
Yeah,
experience.
and when I was going through your videos on YouTube, I'll share the link below. There's some like singing as well as
Mm,
she's wearing such a beautiful kimono, and there's amazing costumery and in other performances and in other parts of the event. So there is a lot of taiko drumming, which is fantastic. But it's you've got a different
yes.
pace, right? You got like an up down pace of different kinds of activities, different kinds of music as well.
Yeah, and this picture in particular shows one of our distinguished members called her name is Chieko Kojima, and she's amazing. She's one of our founding members of the group, and KODO has been around for over 40 years, 50 including the precedent group. And so Chieko has been there this entire time, and she's one of our amazing performers. She will be, oh, she's this top left corner. And she has a distinct style of performing taiko drums while dancing. And it's just really mesmerizing to see. And like you said, we don't just drum. We have fue, which is the bamboo flute. We also sing. Yoko Fujimoto in turquoise that you see there too is also an amazing singer. So it's a mixture of different style of music that we like to perform, that is created through the travels and the encounters with the people throughout these years.
Oh, how wonderful. I can't wait.
Hmm.
And then this is one of the outdoor stages, is it?
Yes, I believe so. So the highlight, I guess, the big highlight for Earth Celebration is, like I said, the harbor concerts that happen every night of the concert. That's outside, right next to the port, actually. When you come in, there's a park right by the ocean, and that's where the concert venue is. And it's just really, I guess, rewarding and beautiful to see live music in general under the stars. Sado Island barely has any street lights. So when it's at nighttime, it's super dark. But because it's dark, you can see all the stars shining at night, and it's just rewarding to see everything in your peripheral vision, I guess. And just fingers crossed that the weather will hold. But like I said, even if it does rain, if it is safe for us to do so, the concert happens and people still have a really great time. And I think that's the magic of the vibes that not just the performers and staff, but the audience creates together to make this celebration happen.
Yeah. That's it's so important, right? If you're there for the festival, rain or shine, you're going to go ahead, you're going to
Mm,
have a good time, fingers crossed for clear skies, but we'll go ahead, we'll still have a great event. So
yeah.
it's always tricky when you plan these big outdoor events, right? We've done a lot in Hiroshima as well. And you're always like, is it gonna rain? But yeah, awesome. This looks like a very special performance.
Mm. This is called Shishiodori, which is a folk performing art form from Iwate Prefecture. It's usually danced with shishi, which is not the shishimai shishi, but it's a different shishi. It's a deer dance. And so in Iwate Prefecture, the locals dance with a mask on. What KODO likes to do is we like to learn from the locals of all the different folk performing art form, and we spend time with them, we drink and become friends with them. And then we get really lucky for those locals who understand our art form and gives us the respect to put it on stage as part of our production. So this is what you see on the picture is one of the examples of that happening. And so we recreate, I don't want to say recreate, but we reimagine Shishiodori into our performance. And that's what you see
Yeah,
here.
I love the
And
costumes, but also the drums, and then the really unique. Is it made of feathers behind it?
these
Oh,
are
bamboo!
bamboo.
Wow.
You will, if you see this in person, you'll see these performers drumming at the same time they go around, and what they do is they slap on the floor these bamboo shoots. And that's also the rhythmic part of the whole performance. It's really hard to explain it verbally. You just have to, it's one of those things you have to see it in person, but it's a lot of athleticism and musicality put together.
I was watching John Dobbs' amazing video only in Japan. That
Uh,
he did so many wonderful videos when he was covering the event a few years ago, and and really
uh-huh.
featuring all the amazing athleticism, like you said, of the taiko drummers and how
Mm.
much you guys train over the year. It's almost every day, isn't it?
Yeah, so our performers, that this is what they do for a living, and so they do keep themselves fit and they practice every single day. I'm going to sidetrack a little bit, but to become a KODO performer, you have to go through a 2-year apprenticeship. And the apprentice center is located also on the island, which is an hour away from where we're located. They're in an abandoned schoolhouse. So we're, I guess, reusing an abandoned schoolhouse for these apprentices who are age 18 to 25. We usually have almost 20 apprentices living communally. They cook and eat together. They practice together. They learn how to prepare fresh fish. They farm. They harvest their own rice, and they also start their day off. They start their day at 5 a.m. To go running. They go run at the crack of dawn, and after that, they prepare breakfast, eat together, and then they finally start practicing. And it's just a routine that they all have to go through for 2 years. Only the selected few gets to be a performer. So I think that's what also gives that special vibe for our performers to put on a performance that are so tightly knit together.
I'm just showing some of the feed of John's Only in
Yeah.
Japan video from the Earth
Mm-mm.
celebration, and he really did a great in-depth look at all the Kodo drummers and showed a bit of that off-season training time, and I thought that was really
Mm-mm-mm.
amazing.
Yes. And ooh, you'll see where Sado Island is located
There you
too.
see that little butterfly island. It's almost called, right?
That's true. It is a butterfly. We like to say it's an S shape, but I like butterfly better.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. Yeah, so I'll put the link below. You should definitely watch the whole video. It's fabulous. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So what is your favorite part? You've been a part of so much of the festival for 10 years. Do you have any personal favorites?
I guess my personal favorite comes from my roles for Earth Celebration every year. It keeps changing because I like to try new things all the time. So I've been at the information desk. I've been, I'm PR right now, but I've been backstage. And what led me to, I guess, after doing different roles for for the festival led me to this conclusion that what I love about the festival the most is just the people that I get to meet and the people that actually travel all the way out to Sado. Everybody has their own stories and really cool background stories of how they got to this island is what fascinates me and what I look forward to hearing every single year because um, it's just such a beautiful thing for everybody to come together on the island. It's not easy. The transportation honestly can be a little bit confusing if you're not used to the Japanese transportation system. And if you are confused, don't hesitate to contact us, and we're happy to help you, lead you the right way. And so, like I said, it's not easy. And for people, thousands of people to be there in one spot to listen to music, be under the same sky is just really miraculous to me. And when I get to talk to people, it that adds on to the beauty of the event. So I think to me, my favorite part is to meet people who come to Sado.
That's awesome. Yeah. And people who come who make the effort. Like you said, it might not be easy to get
Yeah.
there. I'm just showing from the Earth Celebration channel. This is one of my personal favorites.
Mm.
Just gonna add the sound just for a minute. And I was listening to your talk with your MC, and he was doing a lot of this video, right? So the video
Mm.
is done by KODO members as well, right?
Yeah. This is part of our COVID-19 Earth celebration.
It's so fun. I mean, if just hearing that, if that doesn't make you want to go, I don't know, right? Like that must make, and for someone
And
who's
that
practiced Kodo, that must make you really excited to hear that, right?
Yeah, and that performance in particular is really special to our entire company because I think we have a really strong group of female performers in the troupe that are really, really great performers, as you can see in in the video. And we're really proud that we have not just female, but just really great performers that represents the company right now. They all have great character, and I think Joy, what you told me earlier about seeing them all smiles, um, I think that adds on to who Kodo can be and will be, as you see in the concert too.
Yeah, fabulous. And I think, in Japan, we are struggling with gender imbalance in many different areas of society. But to see women who are so powerful, strong, and enjoying themselves, I think it's a great example for all of us how we want to live our lives. I love it.
Mm, yeah.
We've got a great comment from Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful photos with us that we showed earlier. Such a wonderful and insightful conversation. Thank you. I was lucky enough to experience the Earth celebration back in 2019. I love the sense of community. Music really brings people together. That's awesome. Thanks, Hannah.
Yay.
So good. And you have a
So
lot of
sweet.
people who come who are really interested in music, maybe musicians themselves, but you also have a lot of people who are just interested in the community vibe, the island culture. There's a variety of reasons that people want to come to the Earth celebration, right?
Yeah, and that's why I love talking to all the audience, or I don't know how it, oh yeah, the audience or the guests that we have on Sado Island. Like I find myself just having random chats with everybody whenever I get the chance to, because some people know who KODO is, some people don't, and some people know what Earth Celebration has been in the past, but some people just heard about it and just decided to, you know, make their way out. So I just love hearing and knowing that there's a diverse group of people that are gathered, and it's a miracle.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Yui, for joining me today and giving us a bit of an overview
Yeah.
of this year's celebration. But I think it's more than that, right? Like even if you can't make it this year for the event, hopefully you'll keep it in mind and go in future years. And I think this year, though, I am going, and I'm very excited to be
Mm,
at the after COVID. We are back Sado Island Earth Celebration. Come and join
definitely.
us. There's still tickets available. They still have space in the campgrounds, right?
Yes. It's gonna be fun. So much
Awesome.
fun.
Thank you so much, Yui. And if you're interested, check out all the links below, and we'll see you there. Thanks,
Thank
everyone. Have a
you.
great day.